correspondent looks at how public support could help President Tinubu achieve New Year's broadcast promises of a fair deal for all Nigerians irrespective of class or creed goal. As former Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development Sadia Umar Faruk returns after hours of interrogation by EFCC operatives. Thanks for joining us today on Panorama. From Abuja, I'm Zenret Dingmo. To many people in Nigeria, common words observed as being in usage for everyday conversations have come to include equity, fairness, and justice. Words which ordinarily imply right dealings, good faith, and ethical uprightness. Taking a cue from the public yearnings, President Bola Tinubu in his New Year broadcast promised a fair deal for all Nigerians, irrespective of class or creed. Olabode Arewa in this report delves into how public support could help the president achieve this goal.
One of the recurring issues dominating public discourse in Nigeria's recent history has been a perceived feeling by some sections of the society that they are being allegedly alienated from the nation's commonwealth. Despite assurances and crucial steps taken by past administrations to assuage such feelings in the citizenry by providing them with dividends of democracy, among other tokens of good governance, a sense that government at all levels is purportedly far from the people persists in the minds of some critics. But President Bola Tinubu says his interactions with different segments of the populace has made him to understand their needs with the readiness to build a nation based on fairness, equity, and justice.
We will work diligently to make sure every Nigerian feels the impact of their government, the economic aspirations, and the material well-being of the poor, the most vulnerable, and the working people shall not be neglected.
Many believe that this promise under the Renewed Hope agenda could be fulfilled if those entrusted with promoting the concepts of equity and equality before the law effectively play their parts.
Our attitude needs to change before Nigeria can get better. And for there to be discipline, there must be justice and equity. There must be deterrence to crime.
For as long as people have unfettered and unhindered access to the courts, then there is a semblance of equity and justice, meaning where rights are infringed, people know where to run to. So if we must have equity and justice, then the people's confidence in the judiciary, in the law courts, must be rekindled.
Most importantly, political observers believe that most Nigerians have an abiding faith that the nation's future is bright and noble. All it requires for greatness to be unveiled is a collaboration by all towards reaching this goal of making Nigeria great again. Olabode Arewa, NTA News.
Governor Hope Uzodinma of Imo State has expressed belief that the 2024 Appropriation Act of the federal government will fast-track sectoral developments. This, he says, will change the face of the country for good. The governor expressed his hope while talking to State House correspondents after his meeting with President Bola Tinubu at the State House. Governor Uzodinma insists that the solutions of most of the expectations of Nigerians have been captured in the National Appropriation Act, now waiting for implementation.
We look at the provisions in that act and the number of infrastructure and capital projects proposed by the president. If we're able to perform even 50% budget performance on that document, it will not be the same Nigeria. We have had instances where reforms were carried out in some countries. Some policies that looked initially as unfriendly policies 2-3 months of gestation period becomes the darling of all stakeholders. So I'm confident that the initial period of the takeoff of some of these policies that will give us a more robust economy will soon be over, and Nigeria will begin to enjoy the product of the new vision.
Governor also pointed out that security situation in Imo State has improved greatly, reiterating his government's commitment towards consolidating the relative peace. Following his victory in the November 11, 2023 election, Governor Hope Uzodinma is due to be sworn in for the commencement of his second term on January 15, 2024. And former Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Sadia Umar Faruk, has returned home Monday night after hours of interrogation by operatives of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. She had arrived at the Jabi headquarters of the EFCC about 10:18 a.m. on Monday to honor the invitation to offer clarifications on some issues that the Commission is investigating. The former minister had a long session with the EFCC interrogators. The Monday session ended about 10:30 p.m., after which she was allowed to return home. She is expected to return this Tuesday for further clarifications on sundry issues that the Commission has flagged in the course of its preliminary investigations. With few days to January 15th, commemoration of the Armed Forces Remembrance Day, the national chairman of the Nigerian Legion, Major General Abdul Malik Jibril, has urged Nigerians not to forget the sacrifices made by members of the Nigerian Armed Forces in keeping peace in the nation. While briefing newsmen in Abuja, Major General Jibril charged citizens to desist from activities that will lead to disunity or unrest in the country.
Why should the general public easily forget these sacrifices? This emblem that you see that we urge people to donate and wear is just the little one can do to show appreciation and sympathy. And it is an encouragement for our sons and daughters that are still out there, that even when they are not there, they are not going to be forgotten.
Major General Jibril acknowledged that funding remains a major problem in handling welfare of Nigerian veterans and families of fallen heroes, while pleading with the government to issue takeoff grants for the Legion.
The takeoff grant that is necessary for any organization that is established by government to see to its fruition, to create office environment. The federal government should kindly oblige the provision of that and include the Nigerian Legion under the budgetary allocation annually, so that we can be able to impact on the lives of the dependent of the fallen heroes.
And to education matters now. Principals and school administrators are henceforth to be held responsible for low turnout of students in public schools. FCTA Secretary for Education Danlami Hayo stated this when he led the management team to inspect some schools after resumption. Unoze Yakubu reports.
Impressed with the turnout of students in schools visited, the Secretary for Education Danlami Hayo sounds a note of warning to school administrators on low turnout of students in their schools, saying that the development translates to failure on the part of the school authority.
When we discover a school whereby teachers are ready while the students are not present, or the attendance of the students are very poor, definitely we are going to change the administration of the school. We are going to bring someone capable that can lead.
The Secretary further discloses that the sum of 13.1 billion naira has been earmarked for renovations, construction and provision of furniture for schools in the FCT. These steps, he adds, is a good omen for the education system in the territory.
When all this data, all the necessary information gathered, we are going to transfer to the Honorable Minister. And I'm sure one of his key priority areas is education. And this education is going to be given special consideration. That's why in 2023 budget, he approved 13.1 billion naira to spend on renovation, construction, and provision of chairs or furnitures for schools in FCT. So this is encouraged.
The schools visited are Government Science and Technical College Area 3, Government Secondary School Tudunwada, and Junior Secondary School Wuse Zone 6, as well as Gliston Group of Schools in Jahi, Abuja. Onoze Yakubu, NTA News.
Meanwhile, with the resumption of schools after the festive season, school administrators in Bayelsa State are worried about the epileptic power supply in schools as it affects them in meeting with the ICT curriculum for students in line with global educational requirements. Doris Akumonye completes the report.
So it's 5 plus 5, 10 plus 1 carry. 11.
It is the first day of school's resumption and students on pupils are already in school refreshing after the Christmas and New Year holidays.
I have with me one of my very good friends, Esther, who said she would like to be a lawyer.
I'm very well prepared because I do read newspaper, I do study art, I read books about law.
Esther is not alone in this business of becoming one of our best. I also have with me a student here who will be talking to me on how prepared she is for the second term academic session.
I'm well prepared because I have my NECO, WAEC and JAM to prepare for.
Management are not equally insensitive of the current economic realities associated with delay in payment of school fees.
My nursery primary, if you have up to 4 children, you pay only for the 3. Then if you have 5, you pay for 3, that 5 give you some percentage discount.
You know, to have a good ICT lab that is running and the students can learn and do research, you need a steady power supply. And that has been something that worries not just my school, so many schools.
The first day of resumption recorded low turnout of students in some schools, while others had large spread of scholars settled for the day's lessons. In Yenagoa, Doris Akomonye, NTA News.
Let's pause here for a break. Panorama returns shortly. Thanks for staying with us. Now, Panorama continues in our Lagos Network Center.
Thank you, Zenres, and welcome to Lagos. Increased public awareness on safety of lives and property has been attributed to decline in the rate of fatalities associated with road crashes, especially during the festive period. Diana Ajale takes a look at safety on the roads before, during and after the U-turn in Lagos.
There has always been increase in vehicular movement and passengers during the U-tide. This common phenomenon usually results in road traffic crashes. The FRSC said in recent time, the figures have drastically reduced as road users express their views on the current development.
This time around, it seems as if people are mindful of their life, particularly when we are coming. It was glorious. There were less casualties and we all enjoyed the Christmas.
From Ishagam, reach Ijebu, that road no good. Na bad road, all that amount of way they come. From there, na one way, not just the manager, no wala for us there for that road.
Data about the Federal Road Safety Corps, Lagos, shows that between the 1st of December and the 31st of this month, 33 road traffic crashes were recorded, out of which only 1 case was fatal. The FRSC Sector Commander in Lagos, Babatunde Farinloye, says the agency is working hard to sustain the tempo. According to the Federal Road Safety Corps, Lagos State Command, a total of 452 road traffic crashes were recorded in 2023, out of which 139 persons were killed, while 67,641 persons were arrested for different traffic infractions. In Lagos, Diana Ajale, NTA News.
My guest on Panorama is the Public Relations Officer, Federal Road Safety Corps, Lagos State Command, Superintendent Roads Commander Olabisi Shonusi. Thank you for joining us on Panorama.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, now let's start with a brief rundown on the statistics gathered during Yuletide and New Year road safety monitoring exercise in Lagos. How was it?
It went very well. You know, we started our Operation Zero towards the Yuletide. That was December 15th, and we'll be shutting down the Operation Zero by January 15th.
Okay.
So for us generally, yes, we had some level of crashes, but you know, before then we had our various awareness in most of the parks, churches, to sensitize the general public, the motoring public on it, for us to avoid speed, because the theme of our Ember Month says speed thrills but it kills, that we should drive responsibly and avoid overloading. And that was what we preached all through before the Yuletide, and I must tell you, it went down a bit well.
Okay, so now how impactful is the public enlightenment program you often engage in, even after the Yuletide?
Well, you know, for us, I would say generally it's been impactful, just as I said, because we did not just stop at the parks alone. We went to churches, to mosques, and we also engaged some corporate organizations in this. And before the children, the school pupils also went on break. We were at some of the schools to also let the children also be our watchdog, at least to tell the parents on need for them to drive responsibly and also to be alive to pay their school fees. So I would say the public enlightenment and all our tools that we put in place before the Yuletide is working very well, and we are not really relenting on all our efforts.
Okay, now managing overspeeding and overloading is what's usually characterized commercial bus drivers, particularly in Lagos, on like busy streets, Lagos Expressway, you know, during the festive period. Now, is there any difference from when you had the monitoring exercise?
Well, for the 33 road crashes that we had during the Yuletide, most of these were basically speed related. You know, with the conclusion of our own part of Lagos, the Lagos Expressway, with the completion of the rehabilitation work, that's made a lot of the motorists to start speeding. And you know that speed, once we have that, the fatality rate is always high. And so what the team from Abuja did in collaboration with our men along the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway was to do what we call the speed control patrol, where we have our vehicles, leading vehicles from Lagos and all the way to Ibadan. And the team takes it all from there, calming motorists not to overspeed, because once you have our team, you can't really go beyond their vehicles. So that naturally was a natural speed calming thing that we did, and for us, I think it was more effective. That was why we had that.
Okay, now let's talk about your mobile court. It seems to be the fastest way of penalizing road traffic offenders. How active were they during the last festive period, you know, when you were monitoring?
Very, very active. We had some of the traffic violators also paraded by two Lagos magistrates, and some were charged to make payment for the penalties, and some were, you have the penalties, and some were made to do some community work. But I must say we collaborated well, and I must give it to the Lagos judiciary. They've been very, very cooperative.
Beautiful. Now, could you give us an update on speed limiters? When will its enforcement take off, as it could be a tool, you know, to help you work in monitoring overspeeding?
We've not stopped the enforcement of speed limiting device and that, because we feel that yes, we said let's start with the commercial vehicles for now, but we're looking forward to now probably extending to the private vehicles. But why we've not really been enforcing the private vehicle owner is that your family is your natural speed limiting device. But for the commercial drivers who picks other motorists, we've not relented in the enforcement, and for this year we are going to keep increasing the rate of awareness and also enforcement.
All right, the menace of articulated vehicles is one too many, and they are linked with many of the crashes. What is the code doing to penalize those who disobey the rules, like to send a note of warning that they are not above the law once they are in motion?
Okay, for articulated vehicles, we've not relented in the enforcement. Yes, we're still engaging what we call dialogue and enlightenment. We will intensify that. And for enforcement, what we do, just as you said, we parade them do mobile courts where the magistrate decide on their case. And because the Lagos State government are also very, very interested in reducing the rate of crashes involving articulated vehicles, I know that the judiciary too are on top of the game, and we too, our enforcement level will not drop this year.
Thank you, Olabisi Shonobi, but I would just like you in a sentence your message to Nigerians this 2024.
Okay, for us, we want a crash-free motoring environment, and I know it is possible. Please, it starts with every one of us. Road safety is a joint responsibility. Let us all join hands together.
Thank you, Olabisi Shonusi.
You're welcome.
Once more
Thank
for coming
you for
on
having me.
Panorama. It's time for us to take some sporting news.